Prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trust in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interests you've committed to their charge. Amen.
Amen. Item 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I welcome you to this special sitting. The purpose for this sitting is known to all of us. There are some communications that I'll make when the casket is in the chamber. Let's proceed.
The casket is both the chambers. Please, members, rise. The anthems. May resume your seats, honorable members. Item number 4 on the order paper, laying of the wreath. First, the Right Honorable Speaker. His Excellency the Vice President, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Leader of Government Business, the Government Chief Whip, the Leader of the Opposition in Parliament, the Minister for the Presidency, Minister of State, Directorate of Ethics and Integrity, the Parliamentary Commission, the Chief Opposition Whip, Secretary General FDC, Democratic Party Caucus, Democratic Party Whip, Dean, Independent Members of Parliament, Uganda People's Congress, Party President, Uganda People's Congress, Party Whip, to be followed by Uganda Parliamentary Caucus, Acholi Parliamentary Caucus, Rwenzori Parliamentary Caucus, to be followed by UPDF Caucus, Ankole Parliamentary Caucus, Lango Parliamentary Caucus, to be followed by Workers MPs, Bukedi Parliamentary Group, Greater North Parliamentary Group, Bugisu Parliamentary Group, Busoga Parliamentary Group, to be followed by Uganda Younger Democrats, Uganda Younger Democrats, Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Quality Health and Service Delivery,
When I was 20,
Honorable Sempala Chigozi, Honorable Kasozi Ibrahim, Honorable Sebacha Edward Ndaura, Honorable Wakaima Musoke Sereko, Honorable Kenneth Rubogo, Honorable Peter Ogwanga on behalf of Captain Mike Mukura, item number 5 on the order paper. Motion for resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Honorable John Sebana Kizito, former Minister and Member of Parliament for Makinye East.
Thank you. Right Honorable, before you move the motion, let me make some recognition and also acknowledge some messages that have come. We have a message from the chambers of the Deputy Chief Justice. Condolence message to the family of Honorable Sebana Kizito, signed Stephen B. K. Kavuma, Acting Chief Justice. We have a condolence message from the Democratic Party President Norbert Mao, addressed to the Speaker of Parliament. We have a message from Uganda Parliamentary Caucus, addressed to the family, signed Honorable Johnson Moyanja, MP, Uganda Parliamentary Caucus, and they make a contribution of shillings 1 million on this letter, but it's not included with it, so it's not with me. They have it, so I needed to make that clarification just in case. You have it, okay. We have a condolence message from the National Resistance Movement, Office of the National Vice Chairman Eastern, signed Flight Captain George Michael Mukula, PhD. Those are the condolence messages I have received. For now, I'll pass this to the family. Honorable members, we also have colleagues and members of the Uganda society that have come to pay their respect to the Honorable Sebana Kizito. I have the immediate family sitting behind me in the technical bench. I have Mr. Joseph Mobiro Kizito, Sarah Mobiro Kizito, Netsai Kizito, they're all behind me here, Joyce Kizito Kajoba, Lucy Kizito Kalenda, Mr. Mutibwa, and Grace Sewanyana. They are all seated at the technical bench behind me. In the VIP gallery, we have members who we recognize. I have a list, but I recognize some straight away, including the current president of the Democratic Party, the Honorable Norbert Mao, former president of the Democratic Party, the Honorable Paulo Kawanga Semogerere, and I recognize the Honorable John Livingston Okello Kello, the Honorable Anthony Butele, the Honorable Otekat, the Honorable Taka, the Honorable Lulume, Doctor, Honorable John Kawanga. I now have to be assisted by the list I have, I cannot see properly. I have Honorable Santos Alima, Honorable Israel Mayego, Honorable Michael Mabike, Honorable Zachary Olum, Honorable Jemaina Semogerere, Dr. Jemaina Semogerere, Honorable Azira Sewanyana, Honorable Mukasa, Honorable Joseph Balikudembe, Honorable Semogaba Samuel. We also have Mr. Kenneth Paul Kakande, and these are leaders, officials from the Democratic Party. Of course, I've already mentioned the President General, Honorable Norbert Mao, Dr. Chiwanuka Mayambala, Mr. Kenneth Paul Kakande, Mr. Balikudembe Joseph, Dr. Gerald Siranda, Mr. Mwesigwa Fred, Mr. Majwala Dennis Lukanga, Mr. Suleiman Kidandala, and Mr. Jude Mbabali, Chairperson Masaka District. They have all come to be part of this proceedings and see how we proceed with this matter. Right Honorable. Just also to say, I have also been witnessed the laying of wreaths from young Democrats. I was surprised to see how old they were. So it should have been the representatives or former young Democrats, because they're really, they didn't look that young. So I think they are kind of representative and memorizing what happened in the past when they were young. So I think we capture that in that spirit. Right Honorable, please.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members of Parliament. I beg to move a motion for a resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to Honorable John Sebana Kizito for his dedicated service to the nation. And I'm doing this under Rule 47 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, sir, whereas the Parliament of Uganda received with deep sorrow the news of the demise of Honorable John Sebana Kizito, former Member of Parliament and former Cabinet Minister, which occurred on Monday, the 3rd of July 2017 at Nakasero Hospital in Kampala, recognizing that Honorable John Sebana Kizito had an illustrious political and business career spanning over 50 years, in which he participated in pre-independence struggles, post-independence politics, and also held several key responsibilities in this country, wherein he served in the following areas. Was a member of East African Legislative Assembly from 1967 to 1977. He was chairman of the National Insurance Corporation from 1977 to 1980, was a member of Parliament for Kampala South constituency from 1980 to 1985, and was Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs from 1981 to 1985. He was acting leader of the opposition in Parliament in 1983, and after the movement government came in power, he became Minister of Regional Cooperation in 1986, then Minister of Cooperatives and Marketing in 1987, and Minister of Housing and Urban Development from 1989 to 1991. He was a member of the Constituent Assembly representing Makingi East constituency from 1994 to 1995, and was Mayor of Kampala from 1999 to 2006. He was President General of the Democratic Party from 2005 to 2010. Appreciating that Honorable John Sebana Kizito was a strong advocate of democratic governance and contributed to the development of multi-party politics in Uganda, further appreciating that Honorable John Sebana Kizito served this nation with dedication and patriotism. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this Parliament as follows. 1, that it collectively conveys its deep condolences to the bereaved family, relatives, friends, and the people of Uganda upon the demise of Honorable John Sebana Kizito. 2, that it takes cognizance of the distinguished service rendered and contribution made by Honorable John Sebana Kizito to Uganda. And 3, that this Parliament collectively prays to the Almighty God to sustain the bereaved and grant our departed colleague and friend, Honorable John Sebana Kizito, eternal peace. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move.
Is the motion seconded? It's seconded by the Leader of the Opposition, seconded by the Honorable Barerianga Andrew and Honorable Seungo Joseph and the entire House. Would you like to speak to your motion, Right Honorable?
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And this is justification for a resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Honourable John Sebana Kizito. Right Honourable Speaker, we are here to mourn and celebrate the life of a distinguished man whose life and example touched the lives of many in many positive ways. Anybody who interacted with John Sebana Kizito attests to his great wisdom, humility, wise counsel, and desire to share practical ideas on how to improve the quality of lives of people. Sebana Kizito was a true patriot who walked the talk of his convictions for a better Kampala, a better Uganda, and a better Africa. He offered himself to the service of our country, both in political and also in business leadership. From serving as mayor of Kampala for 2 terms to representing the people of Makindye East in Parliament, to being a cabinet minister in various portfolios and leading the Democratic Party, Sebana Kizito left a trail of positive accomplishments at whatever level and whatever position he served in. Sebana Kizito never allowed political differences to stand in the way of service to the people of Uganda. For example, even when he was a strong member of the Democratic Party, John Sebana Kizito played an important role in the liberation of Uganda that brought in the National Resistance Movement government to power in 1986. And we continued to work closely together thereafter. Right Honourable Speaker, in business, Sebana Kizito was a giant. He was a pioneer who traded where many dreaded. In the early 1980s, for example, he started a statewide insurance company in an industry that was relatively new in the country and managed to grow it to a strong firm that continues to serve Ugandans well, even today. The history of the insurance industry in Uganda can never be complete without mention of the name of John Sebana Kizito and statewide insurance. Right Honourable Speaker, colleagues, in his long leadership, political and business career, John Sebana Kizito nurtured and mentored many young and old people alike, emphasizing the virtues of hard work, honesty, and integrity. He leaves a challenge and legacy to emulate. John Sebana Kizito has a special place in our democracy. He was one of the delegates to the Constituent Assembly that produced the 1995 Constitution. And when the first elections under multi-party dispensation were held in February 2006, John Sebana Kizito not only supported the process, but offered himself as a presidential candidate representing the Democratic Party. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, at 84 years, Sebana Kizito has lived an accomplished life, but we still needed his wise counsel and a voice on a number of issues in the country, even when you would not agree with some of his views, you could not ignore those views. So while we mourn his passing on, we take pride in his contributions, and our charge is to emulate him and ensure that his legacy, his enterprises, and his name live on. Right Honorable Speaker, what was the cause of death? Honorable John Sebana Kizito lost the battle to a stroke. Right Honorable Speaker, colleagues, on behalf of government and indeed on my own behalf, I send our deep condolences and sympathies to the family, friends, Buganda Kingdom, the Democratic Party fraternity, the business community, and the country at large upon this big loss. May the Almighty God rest his soul in eternal peace.
Thank you. Second of the motion, Leader of the Opposition.
Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members of Parliament, I raised second a motion for a resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to Honorable John Sebana Kizito, a former member of this Parliament, former presidential candidate, and former Democratic Party President General. Mzee Sebana dedicated almost his entire life fighting for democracy and good governance in this country. But as even he did so, he never injured anyone. There are many people who have fought or claimed to be fighting for democracy, and they are jumping over bodies to access power. I think he shared this belief. He shared the beliefs of great leaders such as Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi of identifying causes to die for and not causes to kill people for. Right Honorable Speaker and other members, his ability to successfully establish and run businesses and at the same time serve politics daily and continuously is a legacy he leaves behind. A legacy is something that will speak for you when you have gone. I think that will speak for Mzee Sebana. On behalf of the opposition, I extend our sincere sympathies to his family, relatives, the Democratic Party, the insurance fraternity, all democracy-seeking forces, and the entire country. Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, his biggest achievement has been his ability to run businesses successfully in a hostile environment that seeks to cripple enterprises of political opponents and perceived opponents. A business environment that selectively gives out incentives such as tax holidays, free land and money to a selected category of people, including fake investors. I am sure those in government praising Sevana as a great entrepreneur never threw or never allowed any business opportunity, at him. Yet they flew to different countries looking for investors, leaving potential investors in this country. This environment, Right Honorable Speaker and members, is probably the reason Sevana invested more in immovable property that are not easily undermined. With minimal state help, probably we would be speaking about one of the wealthiest people in East Africa. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the reason he found time, probably the reason he found time away from his businesses to do politics was because he cared so much about the future of this country. It is not surprising that even on his deathbed, he was still concerned about maneuvers being done by some regime royalists to change the constitution so Mr. Museveni can finally proclaim himself a life president. In his non-last media interview, broadcast about a month ago, Mzee Sevana made an impassioned plea to this parliament to desist these maneuvers of changing Article 102B of the Constitution that puts a mandatory age limit. The Prime Minister has told you that he was one of those who put a number of safeguards against the presidency in our Constitution when they are making this Constitution. Probably what the Prime Minister forgot to say is that the work of this Sevana is being undermined. I hope the Prime Minister will not be party to these maneuvers. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the only befitting tribute we can pay to John Sevana Kizito, the person the Prime Minister has described as if the Honorable Tafiri, who is also working on this project, can listen. Right Honorable Speaker, the only befitting tribute that we can pay to Mzee Sevana as members of this 10th Parliament is not to amend the Constitution, lifting the age limit for the presidency. That was his desire. It was the desire of those who made the Constitution in 1995, including some who are still in this Parliament. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, Mzee Sevana believed in brain power, and I think it is the reason he invested in grooming young people. Although, of course, when they called young people, those who have grown are the ones who came up. But I think the Speaker has clarified. He was, and I think he has died as the patron for the Uganda Young Democrats. I used to see him coming to Makere when we were students. One of the great leaders said, true leaders don't invest in buildings because, as you are aware, Jesus and Prophet Muhammad never invested in buildings, roads, or standard gauge railway. They invested in people. Why? Because success without a successor is failure. And that's what has bedeviled Africa. You've seen the younger Democrats nurtured, I don't know if I should call them former younger Democrats nurtured by Mzee Sevana. They are in this parliament. That Honorable Speaker, I recall in 2010, in his first term as a DP president, a group of some members of DP were requesting him to seek for another term. But Mzee Sevana said there are many other people who can take over the leadership of the party when he has completed his term. So we want to thank him for investing in transitions and in succession. Surprisingly, there are people who are still investing in making sure they don't happen. They only wait to be transited by God. And that certainly will happen, because in all the struggles he participated in, today we are here to mourn and thank him for a right the Prime Minister said was accomplished. So those of you on the other side who want to be transited by God, there will be a day you will be brought here. You will not refuse to go that day. Mzee Sevana, someone was reminding me, that Honorable Speaker, that with death there is no age limit. There is no lifting. So whether you like it or not, Honorable Tafile, you will have your chance to speak. There will be a day when you will not lift the age of departure. Mzee Sevana was very passionate about education. He actually spoke passionately about education in CA, the plight of professors. He said at the time he went to the university at Makerere, professors were highly respected. He was concerned that professors, and I'm quoting him because this was in CA, were still holding the cup under this administration. Situation has improved a bit, but we will make it better, don't worry. Right Honorable Speaker, again on behalf of the opposition, we want to thank Mzee Sevana Kizito for the services he has rendered to our country. We wish him well wherever he has gone. Thank you very much.
Independent?
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, I stand to support the motion to pay tribute to the late Honorable Sevana Kizito. Right Honorable Speaker, members of the August House, the family of Honorable Sevana, our country is yet at loss again to another phenomenal figure only 2 weeks after the demise of Honorable Maria Mutagamba. The man we are eulogizing today was one who lived with his star, each in its own time. An economist, a businessman, a politician, and much more. He certainly influenced a lot of decisions and lives, but most importantly, his impact was mainly for the national good, far beyond personal gains. He viewed politics and public service as a tool for causing positive change in the interest of all Ugandans. He was a man of all seasons. No wonder he was able to serve in different capacities in various regimes over time despite different political opinions. He believed in a unified Uganda. And this reminds me of a time when he was on the campaign trail for the presidential elections in Kabale, when a voter said they have never heard of him and hence couldn't vote him. He said in his usual husky voice, "You must appreciate that Uganda doesn't start and stop at one district. It is a big geographical space of different tribes, religions, and persons. It is therefore the responsibility of all Ugandans to know and appreciate one another regardless of origin." The person that was shunned at the first managed to garner so many votes in our region after his statement. We heard how he started and operated various successful businesses, which is a mark of hardworking and committed man. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, we bid farewell to a man who served his purpose and perhaps fulfilled his destiny as a good countryman. However, we have done this for many formidable persons who pass on before in this very august house, commended their work, hard work, tolerance, resilience, and patriotism. But I'm not sure how far we have gone in ensuring that their legacy and good deeds don't go in vain. I am talking about truth, justice, democracy, and equal opportunities for all Ugandans. It doesn't matter whether one is from the opposition or from the ruling government, but the principles are a given. Hence the call for personal evaluation. It's incumbent upon all of us to serve wholeheartedly for the good of our country. Rest in peace, fallen countrymen. I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, the motion has been moved, spoken to, and seconded. I now propose the question for your debate to this motion that Parliament resolves as follows: that it collectively conveys its deep condolences to the bereaved family, relatives, friends, and the people of Uganda upon the demise of Honorable John Sebana Kizito. That it takes cognizance of the distinguished service rendered and the contribution made by Honorable John Sebana Kizito to Uganda. And finally, that this Parliament collectively prays to the Almighty God to sustain the bereaved and grant our departed colleague and friend, Honorable Sebana Kizito, eternal peace. That is the motion that I propose for your debate, and debate starts now. But let me recognize in the VIP gallery again, I recognize the Honorable Joyce Mpanga. I recognize the Honorable Miria Matembe. I recognize the Honorable Mbide Mukasa, former member of the East African Legislative Assembly and also member-elect for the same assembly. Debate starts now. And I'll start from Mukalungu. The Honorable E.B. Florence, I'm informed. Oh, yes. Honorable E.B. Florence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise to second the motion, but before I second the motion, allow me to send appreciation on behalf of the Democratic Party, from the President and the leadership of DP to the government, and most especially the Prime Minister and the government whip for having organized and allowed to bring this gallant son of Africa into the House. Definitely, when you perform, you do work worthwhile, you deserve a good send-off unsolicited. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to use one particular word about John Sebana Kizito, the former President General of DP, that he has been a magnet. When one talks about a magnet, it has forces that pull everybody. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, that's why we are celebrating. We are here because of this man who could pull everybody to his side, whether you belong to his party or not. Mr. Speaker, sir, this man has been around. That's why he did work in all governments, but he never went into exile. He worked in the bottom one government, he worked in the Amin's government, he worked in the bottom two government, and he also worked in the 1986 government of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Actually, those who know very well what happened, Mr. Speaker, indeed, Sebana was a minister in this government, but there were some forces that the president by then wanted him with other DP members, maybe to see the party dissolving, joining the sitting government. But what Sebana was saying was, yes, we can work with you but we shall remain the Democrats, and we shall remain the principles of the Democratic Party, and political parties must remain in action. That was the reason. Actually, when they dropped them, of course some members remained there, but Sevana was dropped and continued working as a Democrat. Mr. Speaker, sir, the reputation of this Democratic Party will never be forgotten. He has been a strong force. He could even unite those fighting him. And I want to thank all the Democrats inside this house, outside the house, and those who are even seeing us now for having been in good friendship with John Sebana Kizito. Many members are talking about Sebana's performance in education. Let me talk about education. When Sebana was a mayor of Kampala, Mr. Speaker, sir, he's the only one I know who constructed good houses for teachers, self-contained, storage, and even to an extent of constructing schools in the barracks. Go to military police Machinde, go to Maction Bay. Whenever I talk about building for teachers' houses, everybody thinks of one room plus a toilet behind. This was not Sebana's thinking. A latrine. Sebana built storage buildings, houses for teachers, and right now, I want to tell you that teachers are not enjoying them, but they are sharing the rooms, which were meant for one person, knowing that is it? No. Mr. Speaker, sir, this man was full of humor. Let me give you interesting scenarios. In the 8th Parliament, he was called in the local government committee park, which was headed by Honorable Katuntu. And they were asking him some issues. By then he had left mayorship. So many members of the committee, I accompanied him, were asking him questions and he was not writing anything down. So the chairman of the committee asked him, Honorable Sevan, we are asking you but you are not writing anything down. Will you remember everything? He said, yes, I'm brain power. I'm noting and I will answer all your questions. And he did so. One time the president of the Republic of Uganda, Mr. Speaker, said that when he was a mayor of Kampala, he said, Kampala is full of flies, it's smelling, and this mayor has failed to clean the city. And Sevan had to answer him in this form. No, I'm aware that there's a lot of milk in the house and the butter. They must be attracting flies here. Those were the words of Sevan. So whenever you could bring a statement against him, he could give you the best currency in reply of what we are saying to Sevan. This is the person we are missing. One time we went in a campaign in Ibuikwe, Mr. Speaker, and the methods he used to convince people to vote Dr. Nwebaiga, will never forget them. He said, this person you elected does not speak in the parliament. Maybe he doesn't know how to speak English. Maybe he doesn't hear English. Why don't you have this man who cannot talk in the parliament? Leave parliament and bring the one I trained, whom I've had in America. One time I sent him in America, he talked and all the Americans had to admire Nwebaiga. And indeed, Dr. Nwebaiga won the votes. So members who keep quiet inside here, stand warned about that. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, a good leader can't fail to work with anybody. But it's about the method of work he carries out with you and the terms of work. That's Sevana, whom we are celebrating today. We shall miss Sevana, and let this message go to the Democrats. What are you learning about Sevana? What are you seeing? You are united now. Can we work together? We see that we can change this government because the Democratic Party can steer this country to greater horizons. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members, I allowed the honorable member for Kalungu to speak longer because he had been listed among the seconders. I've also been advised that we need to rise at 5 o'clock to allow other processes to take place, which are scheduled for this evening. I'm going to request the members to agree to a time frame which we can use to carry out this debate. Can we do, can we have a compromise of 3 minutes? 3 minutes? But knowing that on top of the hour, 5 o'clock, we close. I'll start with the General Tafire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I raise to say farewell to a friend and a colleague who worked with me when he was mayor of Kampala, and I was minister, the steward for local governments. I found the late Sebana a very, very, very amiable person, an intelligent person, and a person who never held back information, counsel, wisdom when it was necessary. Sebana used to come to me and would discuss issues, and if we found no solution, he would say, "Obachiremye tuchite." If it can't be done, let's leave it, shelve it for the time being. Then, no. Omanyi nambuze na wolu. Mr. Speaker, sir, I admired Sebana's humility and his sincerity, his singleness of purpose, and dedication to work. I found him a very, very responsible person. We never agreed on political strategy, but that didn't make us part ways. And whenever I faltered, he gave wise counsel for the betterment of Kampala. Not like my friend, the Honorable, the leader of government business, who says, "I'm working on a project to perpetuate life presidency." I would like, Mr. Speaker, through you, I want to tell the leader of government business that the Constitution of Uganda, the leader of the opposition, that's a slip of the tongue. I'd like to inform the leader of the opposition that the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda is not my property. It's the property of the people of Uganda. It's not a commandment from God. And all articles of the Constitution are amenable to amendment when the population of Uganda so chooses. Whether time has come today or tomorrow, if the people of Uganda say, "We want this article changed," it will be changed. If they say, "Leave it as it is," it will remain as it is. There are no orders at funerals. Mr. Speaker, protect me from the opposition, my opposition friends. Mr. Speaker, time comes when everybody who passes through life must examine their conscience. It's important to serve when you are due for service. It's important that when you are in leadership, you don't pass like a shadow. A shadow comes, you see some vague ambience. When it shines, grass dries. When it rains, it sprouts. When the shadow passes,
Thank you. Kampala Central.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise up as I support the motion as has been unanimously presented and also supported by all members. The late Honorable John Sebana Kizito epitomizes humility, calmness, and unity. As mayor of Kampala, my father, Alhaji Nsereka Abdul, had the privilege to serve him as the speaker. Indeed, when I lost my mom as well, he came home and stayed there for 2 days, trying to give wise counsel to my dad. He was a unifier who did not believe that diversion in political opinion or religious views does not mean people should not work together. There are many things we may fail to agree upon, but we must disagree respectfully. He's someone who stood for that. He's a comrade who stood as a uniting factor and as a bridge. He always preached unity, unity, and unity. At one time, when we were grappling with the questions of politics, he would say, nothing shall not end. Everything shall come to an end. Do not worry, what God has proclaimed definitely will come to pass. Therefore, in these trying times, we would like to sympathize with the family and his biggest family of the Democratic Party, but also Uganda and the government of Buganda in Mengo, where he served as well. For we people in Kampala, he did a lot, from construction of public clinics and health centers to the construction of the first ring road around the King's Palace. And that was unprecedented at the time. He did a lot using meager resources, but he tried to serve his nation with the little he had. He had an outlook that had national character in itself. Even if you did not agree with him, I remember when he was running for presidency, he said, this will leave a mark and I will make a point. It doesn't matter how many will follow me today, but the issue will be the legacy I will leave behind. Sebana Kizito, Muzei, you've left us today, but we shall learn from you that humility followed by legacy shall always leave a dignified nation. May his soul rest in eternal peace.
Mr. Njiro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I support the motion to pay tribute to my elder brother, Sebana Kizito. Right Honorable Speaker, the way we live is the way we shall be sent off. I have observed after some time in my life that people, what they do remains behind in the memories of the people. I had the program for his funeral service. It involves the Anglican Church, it involves the Catholic Church, it involves the Muslims, it involves the opposition and the government, and such was a great man. It means that his contribution has been recognized. It is sometimes unfair for us to contribute things that sometimes the dead would not have wished to hear. Here we are mourning a national hero. It doesn't matter where you are. We have lost one of our own. Mr. Speaker, the way we live is the way we shall be sent off. If you are the type who uses the chance on a funeral, tweet at those who have come to see you, tweet at your opponent, it will haunt you. Yes, if you are a type to score your political camps on funerals, it is not fair. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that we thank government, we thank Parliament for recognizing those who have contributed to our communities and give them a befitting send-off. To the bereaved family, we give our condolences and we pray that the Almighty God rests the soul of late Sebana Kizito in perfect peace. And I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bukoto.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand to second the motion to pay tribute to the late John Sebana Kizito. Right Honorable Speaker, we are missing a very great man, I worked with John Sebana Kizito. When you saw the young Democrats coming out, I'm one of the young people who was mentored, groomed by the late John Sebana Kizito. When I was a very young girl, some people may think that I've never been young. But at one time, I started humbly, Right Honorable Speaker, I started humbly as a councillor at Kawempe Division. And one of the people who brought me to politics was John Sebana Kizito. He encouraged me to come into leadership. When he was mayor of Kampala, I was a councillor at Kampala City Council. He assigned me duties to work jointly with the staff of KCC and advise him on the welfare of the staff. Whenever you would take a decision, he would not change whatever decision you've taken, but he would advise you. Mr. Speaker, the man lying before us is one of the people, together with Dr. Paulo Kawanga Semogerere, who encouraged me to go to Bukoto East and contest to come here where I'm standing. They supported me financially and on advice. I'm now standing here as a member of parliament, ably representing my people. That is the kind of person we are sending over. When he was mayor of Kampala, Kampala City Council had a very tiny budget, but he managed, you remember the floods at Clock Tower and in the city. He managed to lobby funds from the World Bank and worked on the Nachipro channel to reduce on the floods. A lot has been said by the former Minister of Local Government. What he has not said, that John Sebana Kizito is not a person who would be used. He's a person who would take a decision and stand by his decision. May his soul rest in peace.
Leader of Municipality.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'd like to support the motion on the floor. And as we're paying tribute to Sebana Kizito, who represented the people of Kampala South in this very parliament, having been elected on a Democratic Party ticket in the elections of 1980, I felt it befitting to get a quote of what he said on this floor. On the 11th of December 1984, in response to a statement made by Anthony Butele, the late Sebana Kizito raised a very important point which I think is very relevant to us today. He said, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, "Mr. Speaker, one thing I would like to say at the beginning is that when ministers speak in this House, we expect them to speak for the government, not for UPC government, because the government of Uganda is a government of Uganda." I may need to repeat that for some people who may have not learned from history. Not for the UPC government, because the government of Uganda is a government of Uganda. I think we can learn a lot from those who have served this nation. Governments will come and go, but Uganda must remain. Our purpose must be for Uganda. I am one of those who's not surprised that one of the great economic achievements of Sebana Kizito being addressed today was the formation of statewide insurance company. That was done in 1982. When you listen to some people, the period between 81 or 1980 to 1985, Uganda was something else. We had a Uganda before the NRM, we will have a Uganda after the NRM. All of us in this house must work for Uganda, must speak for Uganda. As we do everything within this parliament, it must be for the people of Uganda. As we lose many of our steelworks time after time, I fear we are coming into a generation where we're trying to draw battle lines. Every election we have held in Uganda since 1980 has raised questions. 96, there are those who are not satisfied. All the way till the last election, there are those who are demanding an audit. I personally would like an audit to start with 1980, if that were possible. But I think we have a duty to ensure that the coming election is not going to raise as much controversy as all the previous elections. If it is that truly we believe in this experiment called Uganda, in the hope that we will be able to serve our country, let us do everything within our power and beyond to ensure that members who belong to different political parties will have the opportunity to articulate, to contest, and to serve their nation, irrespective of their political affiliations. May the soul of the late Sebana Kizito rest in eternal peace.
Luwero District. Luwero District.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Luwero District.
Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to second the motion to pay tribute to Muzei. I bring in condolences from the people of Luwero, our own. We were saddened by the news of his demise. His demise brings back memories of the many times when we used to gather in small groups in my village, just to listen in to the radio talk shows, to share with one another. Right Honorable Speaker and fellow mourners, there is a time the late was trying to advise the youth for socio-economic development, and in his own words, if I can vividly recall, he described the future. He described the future as a promising time of boundless possibilities, which possibilities will never unfold of themselves if no earnest efforts are made. He further went on to encourage the youth to move on and squarely face any challenges along the way and turn those challenges into opportunities for growth and development. In my village, they used to describe Muzei as Muzei Wakazi, because with indomitable courage and unflagging determination, he successfully accomplished a number of tasks. Right Honorable Speaker and fellow mourners, last year, there is a group of youth from Greater Luwero, that is Luwero, Nakaseka, and Nakasongola. They came together to form a think tank, and they unanimously agreed to bring on board elders. And among the people they mentioned was Honorable Professor Victoria Mwaka, Honorable Alhaji Naduli, and the late. And we were thinking of putting mechanism in place to care for these people so that we can continuously enjoy the storytelling in their old age as they feed into the think tank. We are so saddened, but we hope for the best. Rest in peace, Mzee Wakazi.
Katikamu.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Proceed. I'll take him also. Proceed.
I'm Katikamu.
Proceed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. And dear colleagues, I stand here to support the motion to pay tribute to Honorable John Sevana Kizito. Last week I visited the late, and I was given a lot of hope by the medical staff that all his body was responding very well, apart from the brains. But it was very unfortunate that this week the news of his death was announced. As you may remember, I worked under John Sevana Kizito. The day he came to Kampala State Council to address us the first time, I saw a very intelligent man, a man with common sense, a man with a lot of wisdom. And indeed, he demonstrated that. I worked very diligently with him. And one thing we should remember with Sevana Kizito, he never brought party affiliation in the working practices. I was known of being NRM. He was being DP, but he never at any one time victimized me for that. He never. We worked very smoothly, and he was always saying, young man, what you are doing is okay. The government of Uganda had a policy of not giving road maintenance money to urban centers. But I kept on pressurizing. And in 2002 and 2003, government accepted, and they gave Kampala State Council 150 million as a budget. That year they gave Zimbabwe over 1 billion. Many people in the council were not happy, but with the Honorable John Sevana Kizito said, don't worry, common sense will dictate. Though they are giving us 150, common sense will tell them, and they give us more money. That's why today KCCA is getting in billions and billions in road maintenance. Ladies and honorable members, we have lost a man, an entrepreneur, a man who has invested in Uganda, not outside. Others get money and they invest somewhere else, but he has stayed here and invested here. We must thank him for that. This gentleman, the Honorable late Sevana Kizito, we must learn that he was not a man wavering around. Today is this, tomorrow is this. He's stuck in his DP for his reasons, and we must respect him for that. He could have very easily.
Okay, Katikamu South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing to support the motion to pay tribute to the late Honorable John Sevana Kizito. On behalf of the people of Katikamu South constituency, I wish to convey my condolences to the family, relatives and friends of the late Ereda. The late Honorable Sevana Kizito was born in my constituency at a village called Impande, Nyimbwa Sub-County, Katikamu South constituency in Ruwero district. I first came to know closely Honorable Sevana Kizito when he was a member of parliament for Kampala South constituency, which is now Makinde East and Makinde West constituencies. He was a great friend of my late father, the late Honorable Africano Sembatia, because they were both shadow ministers in the parliament of Uganda at that time. They used to meet at home for issues regarding their political party, the DP. And that's when I developed the idea of joining politics. I remember when Uganda adopted the multi-party system of governance, the late Mathias Nsubuga and the late Honorable Sevana Kizito met me in the constituency and requested me to join my late father's party, DP. I didn't buy the idea because I was expecting a bright future in the party I now belong to. And that's why I'm here as a member of parliament. Since then, the late Nsubuga and the Honorable late Sevana Kizito started calling me the lost sheep.
Indeed you are.
But we continued to be friends, and I used to get guidance from him because of that background. Uganda has lost a man who has contributed a lot to the development of this country as a minister, member of Kampala City, a businessman, a sportsman, and more so, a man who loved his kingdom. We are going to miss him. May God rest his soul in peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nakaseke North.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I stand here to support the motion to pay tribute to the gallant son of Uganda, the late Honorable Dr. Sevana Kizito. But before I proceed, I would like to thank God for his life and for all that he has done for this country. Honorable Sevana Kizito we've been neighbors for the last 35 years in a diplomatic zone in Kansanga. He's been an advisor who was always willing to give free advice. Right Honorable, the late has been inspirational to the business people in this country. Before he put up Shua House, it looked like the Kampala Civic Center was a preserve of foreigners to invest in. But when he put up that Shua House, many Ugandans were inspired to put up buildings which we see in Kampala today. The many arcades we see in Kampala today are a result of the inspiration from the late Honorable Sevana Kizito. The late was broad-based, and he rose above political affiliations. I remember in 2006 when he stood for the presidency, I was joking and I told him we are going to defeat them. He said, regardless of who wins, we shall all be winners as long as we are all Ugandans. The late did his business with caution. That is why his empire has managed to survive up to this time. And remember last year, there was the infamous list of business people who were asking for bailouts. The late Sevana Kizito's empire was not part of that list for bailouts. What does that teach us? To the business people, to the entrepreneurs, that when we are doing business, we have to be cautious. We have to be careful. You don't borrow money and go and buy expensive cars, which is supposed to do something else. You don't borrow money and go and acquire more wives instead of putting the money to the purpose it is supposed to go. If all the Ugandans followed, if the Ugandan business people followed the example of the late Sevana Kizito, it would be very successful. As an editor in the village, we are going to miss him. We are going to miss his advice. I remember one time, some years ago.
Okay, this is how we'll proceed. I'll have PWD National, then I'll come to Masaka District. Microphone.
Engineer, thank you. Leave the engineer.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to support the motion. And Right Honorable Speaker, the person we are mourning today was my former mayor. I was a councillor at Kampala City Council representing persons with disabilities. People have talked about the late, not dividing people along political lines. But for me, I witnessed it. Immediately we had been elected into council, the late appointed NRM leaders even to his executive. Among those ones was Mr. Lubowa and the Councillor Luego. He also let us, the NRM, to manage one of the most important committees of council, and that was Finance Committee. Our chairman was the former minister, Nyombi, and the former Attorney General, myself and many others were managing the Finance Committee. He helped everybody to effectively do his work. And to that, he was so exemplary. He came up with a vision of the kind of Kampala he wanted to see. And actually he codenamed that vision the Kampala I want. I think so many of you heard about that. Maybe members of parliament, we can also come up with a similar project, maybe the Uganda we want. Further to that, he gazetted one day in every week to allow the electorate to come and share with him the concerns of people of Kampala. So that one helped him so much to operationalize his vision. To us, persons with disabilities, when I went to him to actually formulate a way how persons with disabilities can be supported to do business and to live an economically independent life. You remember, honorable members, there were a number of beggars on the streets of Kampala who were persons with disabilities. He told me, no, there are very few. And to tell the truth, there are non-disabled persons who are now beggars on the street. It is a shame. Honorable members, the late advised me to support persons with disabilities with cottage industries.
Masaka District.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the motion to pay tribute to the late Savannah Chisto. Honorable members, we've lost a real nationalist. He has been a nationalist. He has been an investor, an entrepreneur who invested in Uganda and employed many Ugandans in this era of unemployment, especially among the youth. He was a nationalist. When they wanted to give away the car park to the Indians, Honorable Savannah Chisto said, no, it should go to Ugandans. And it was given to Ugandans, and they have developed it. We really thank him for that. For the people of Uganda, we've lost a resource, a supporter of the kingdom. When you go to the office of the late, the portraits which are in the office shows the love the late Savannah Chisto had for Uganda kingdoms. He loved education. He was put on the council from Tesawan Loyola University, and he worked very hard to ensure that Otesa One Leo University, the only university you have in Greater Masaka, get a license, and it was done. In this infernal era, where many schools were banned, he came in to support. I remember Blessed Sacrament School, Shimanya, was insured by Suko Insurance Company. But by the time it was banned, the insurance cover had expired. But he said they must give us money to help us reconstruct. And they really were given money, and we thank him for that, and we shall always remember it. As a DP, some of us were good leaders, but I wasn't a politician. But he supported me, encouraged me to become a member of parliament, and he supported me. Good enough. I thank God that we celebrated my success together when he was still alive. To you members of DP, there are very many DP members who are in the top offices, but you don't mentor, you don't encourage. When he was, say, the mayor of Kampala City, many councillors were from DP. Now, look what our people who are in big positions in DP, the councillors are from other parties. He was a mentor, inspired us. He inspired the younger people to work hard. He told me one time that great things are not done by great people, but they are done by people who are hardworking and who are strategically excellent.
Mukono municipality?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I join colleagues who have said very wonderful and kind things about my father, the late John Sebana Kizito. But as I sat there, Mr. Speaker, I was wondering whether we could get a mechanism of making a follow-up on what we say about the dead here, and a system that could also follow up on the promises and also be able to compile the examples, the good examples we have cited about the dead. Mr. Speaker, sir, for the past several months, we in DP have faced a very hard time. We have lost many of our elders in such a short time that recently we lost our former legal advisor, we lost the Secretary General, we lost the former Secretary General, we lost the former National Chairman, and now we have lost the former President General. Definitely, as a party with a very big history, with so many people from very different backgrounds, our elders have been a pillar and a uniting factor in the party. So, this is a very sad moment for us as we send off our father, John Sebana Kizito. I was lucky. I served in his DP government as a spokesperson. And I remember him very respectful of all. And it is difficult to tell which generation John Sebana Kizito belonged to. In the party, he associated more with the youth than the old. And when you look at the Uganda Younger Democrats, he has been their patron all through. We could go to his home any time of the day, in his office, and he will always receive us with a smile. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me in these few minutes to say this. One of the biggest activities we carried out with the late John Sebana Kizito was to demand for the report about the death of Dr. Andrew Rutakome Kayila. He led us to demand for that report. And in a reply, the government arrested him and prosecuted him. He goes into his grave with that offense. He is still charged with that offense. And the allegation is that he forged a report about the death of the late Kaira. But as he is being accused, even as he lies there in his coffin, he's being accused of having forged that report. The true report about the death of the late Andrew Kaira has never been given to this country. It's quite very unfair, Mr. Speaker, that people live, great men like Mr. Sevana Chizito, they do wonderful things for this country, but when they die cheated out. They die without seeing the results of their efforts, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, I want to use this opportunity now. When Mr. Sevana is lying here, when he cannot say anything, that we want the report about the death of the late Andrew Kaira. We demand it as DP. We demand it as Ugandans. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, people should not just...
Honorable members, I'm going to proceed this way, and the honorable member for Bodadiri West had gone out. I'll put him towards the end. I'll start with the Dokolo, Bulo Municipality, Esinjiro South, Ajuri, Bulisa, Tororo County, Padiere, Mukono South, Makindye West, Koboko. Then I go to, in that order. And I'm going to ask you, honorable members, that we could reduce on the time to accommodate more members. Can I do that, starting with the Dokolo? 2 minutes, Dokolo? Okay, you're already there. Do 3 minutes. The next one will do 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Thank you. Right Honorable Speaker, I'll be extremely brief. Maybe I will conclude in less than 3 minutes. I just want to say that it is befitting for Parliament to pause specifically for us to celebrate the life of a man who has left with us a wealth of knowledge and wisdom, a granary of experience and investment, and all the good things that you can associate with a good leader. Right Honorable Speaker, for those who are students of political history like me, I think today, as we remember the life of our dear brother, Sebana Kizito, we should remember that he was the shadow minister of foreign affairs during Obote II regime from 1981 to 1985. There was never at any one time during that period that political parties were banned. Because there are people who are convinced, even if you have read history, they are convinced that UPC or Obote banned political parties. But I'm here as the remains of our dear brother still lies with us here to confirm that our brother was the shadow minister of foreign affairs from 1981 to 1983. Please take note of that. 2, he was the acting leader of the opposition from 1983 up to 1985 when the government was overthrown. So I hope that matter is sealed and will never be raised again. I caught up with this brother of mine in the Constituent Assembly, and I was so impressed that humble as he looked, he was willing to chair the National Caucus for Democracy, a forum that brought the DP, the UPC, and independent-minded delegates together to digest our issues and move as a team. And that forum was chaired by none other than the late Sebana Kizito, which was a display of extreme courage, knowing very well that we are operating in a very hostile, militaristic environment. And I really respect him for that. He was able to lead 68 members of the CA from the debate when we were defeated on the Paul Semogere motion on the return of multipartyism. Today we have multi-party regime, I hope, multi-party practice or competitive politics. But Sebana Kizito had to demonstrate by walking out with 68 members to prove that that was the only way of driving the country. It was a true Democrat. I also want to say, for those of us who sometimes forget and become very opportunistic, he was a true Muganda. When we moved the motion to have a same model for return of federal, driven by or moved by John Ereso, when we were defeated, 47 of us walked out, including Sebana.
Gulu Municipality.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of Gulu Municipality, we pay our condolences. I would like to summarize my submission in a very small poem, Mr. Speaker, if you allow. Today we celebrate the 84 years journey of a sculpture. Honorable John Sevan Kizito sculptured a moment, a monument of a legend, a monument of a loyal man of the Mamba clan who swam swiftly through leadership, splashing his charisma and excellence, leaving a trail of wisdom. He is a thread seamlessly woven into Uganda's political and economic fabric. Where Savannah's feet have stepped, seeds have been sown. He is a patron of democracy, freedom, patriotism. He was a man of humility, but the time has come for the humble to be raised high to the heavens. And as we bid our farewells, we are reminded that men like Honorable Savannah shine on. His light still shines in the East African community. His light still shines in the 1995 Constitution. His light still shines in the insurance industry. His light still shines in the Parliament of Uganda. His light still shines in the city of Kampala. So we look to the mighty monument sculptured by Honorable John Sevan Kizito. And as we are reminded that a great man lived among us and his legacy lives on, may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you. Isinjiro? South.
I want to thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to talk about my friend, my grandfather, my everything. I first knew the late Savannah way back in the 1980s as a student at Makerere University during the DPUPC elections. I was with him. He took me up together with friends like Sewanyana, JB Kakoza, Opio Roya, Mugisha Motu was also in the other next smaller party, Serwanga Rwanga, Mbuga, Nawekano, and very many others. He took us on, mentored us, and always told us one thing: stay strong, you must carry on with your dignity, never forfeit anything to do with truth and justice. Have we lived to that? We've not. Right Honorable Speaker, I again met the late during the CA. During the CA, I saw a chance to have been one of the 15 members of the Constituent Assembly to talk about or to debate the very strong issue of federalism. The federalism issue was so strong and very divisive that immediately after the debate late in the evening, I met my brother, my father, and in his very deep voice, Mutabani, did you really understand all these issues to do with federalism? And he took me aside and really preached me, and I realized maybe that we had missed a small chance.
Jury.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise not to mourn, but to celebrate the life of the late Mzee Sebana Kizito. In 1994, as some of you may be aware, I had the opportunity to participate in the events that preceded the promulgation of the 1995 Constitution,
when I participated in the parliamentary children's mock debate representing the children of northern Uganda. I remember that was the first time I stepped on the floor of parliament, deliberated on what we thought would be embedded in the national constitution as the rights of the children of Uganda. And I did exceedingly well, Mr. Speaker and honorable members. I remember during lunchtime, my senior, Honorable Cecilia Gwal, who was equally impressed by the performance of his son, took me around when members of parliament were having lunch. I remember vividly, we reached the table where we had the late Honorable Sebana Kizito. One word he said, which I continue saying to even younger generations, is that, young man, you did well, and you have a bright future. Mr. Speaker and honorable members, that word alone is the reason why you see Ubua on the floor of parliament. I was inspired at that age. I was motivated. I went back to Lango College. I told the students that I did exceedingly well. And members of parliament appreciated. I want to thank him because indirectly he shaped my political future. Indirectly.
Bulisa.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Prime Minister, for moving the motion to celebrate the life of a legendary, an entrepreneur, a representative of local content, a local insurance firm, local real estate, at a time when we are yearning for local content. I bring condolences from Bukungu Bulisa, Bunyoro Kingdom, the Mother Kingdom, but also as an old boy of Ndeje, SS in the Greater Luwero, Katikamu then one constituency, who went to the neighborhood of Nyimbwa a few weeks after the NRM had taken power. But I'm also an in-law to the Mamba clan, so I also mourn the demise of an in-law. Honorable Sebana Kizito was in CA, and at a time when we are looking forward to have a Constitutional Review Commission, we lose a gentleman who could advise the young generation about some of these issues. In these weeks when we are losing leaders who have been mentored by group dynamics, by strong institutions called party intended to mentor leaders, we see the demise of political institutions and the emergency.
Tororo. County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this great opportunity to give tribute to a statesman. I rise on behalf of Bukedi Region, Tororo District, and in particular, the people of Tororo North County, to give condolences to our beloved father. He, indeed, the late now, Honorable Sebana Kizito, was a great statesman. He was a champion, and he deserves to be given a name in this country. And this morning, as I was driving to this place, to Parliament, Mr. Speaker, I was listening to the radio, and I heard the mayor of Kampala mention that he was planning to give or dedicate one of the streets and give it a name such that the statesman of Mr. Honorable Sevana Kizito could be remembered in this country. And I really want to thank him for that gesture. Although, you see, it's also a little bit unfortunate for us to remember people after they have died. It should have been good and actually better, for him to have at least heard about this when he was still a little bit alive, such that he would go back happier. But still, I want to thank the mayor for that, though it has come in a bit late, but it's better than nothing at all.
Adiere.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I think the only way I would remember the great statesman lying here, the events that preceded the 2001 election. Right Honorable Speaker, we were young men then, but taking leadership of Naguru Go Down 1 and of course Nakawa Division. We were invited by NRM, as members of NRM, young men and women. And at the conference center, we were disappointed when we were told that we should go back and support Ziritrawula instead of Nava. So with that disappointment, all of us said, now we are going to support Sevana. And come the day of nomination, processions were banned. But all of us decided and said, no, we're going to move. And that song, which I think that time was a hit, was Yan Chekecha Ngebinyeva something. And the gentleman lying here loved that song so much. So we started a procession from the city hall. We went up to Katwe, Kabusu, up to Natete, all around Kampala. And we came back to London Chambers. What I remember of the gentleman, three things. He remained standing like this from 9 a.m. up to 9 p.m. when we came back to London Chambers. He was standing like this in victory. No, that's what he did. And then secondly, he wrote a very simple thing on his campaign posters. From my place, people write prosperity, democracy, what and so on. But he said only one thing. Kampala has a mayor, John Sevana Kizito. During his campaign, he would say, Nazimba Queen's Tower. And then people would say, but Queen Tower was built by the colonialists. Say, Mamba Katala, Katala. I'm saying the what? The lamp. Now, that was the catch campaign word for all of us that we ran to all the villages campaigning for John Sevana Kizito.
Mukono South.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues. I stand to support the motion, but I want to start by expressing my condolences to the family and the DP members and the Ugandan in general. Right Honorable Speaker, before coming to Parliament, I was the President of Mayors. And before coming the President of Mayors, the late Honorable Sevana Kizito, from 99 to 2006, was the President of Mayors of Uganda, where I was the young boy holding his bag. But I learned a lot from him. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, Sevana was not proud. Small mayors from Kumi, Kalangala, all those small towns could come and they were nurtured by the late Sevana. That's why, through you, Right Honorable Speaker, the urban fraternity of Uganda really have missed Sevana. In 2015, the late Sevana was given a special award by the Alliance of Mayors of Uganda, AMICA. The late Sevana, with Dr. John Mugisa, went in a conference in Afri City in 1998, and when Sevana came back in 1999, he formed the Alliance of Mayors toward the struggle with HIV/AIDS. The organization that is now covering all the urban councils of Uganda as far as HIV/AIDS is concerned.
Makindye, West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in seconding of the motion in tribute of the late Honorable John Sebana Chizito. First, Mr. Speaker, I would like to confirm to you and to Parliament at large that this morning, Kampala Capital City Authority, under stewardship of its great Lord Mayor, His Worship Elias Lukwago, has renamed Nachivubo Road to become John Sebana Chizito Street for his great achievement as one of the greatest leaders of Kampala, and I thank Parliament because you've embraced the same. Mr. Speaker, sir, and Parliament at large, the man lying before us here, if it wasn't him, I wouldn't be talking to you right now as a member of Parliament. The spirit of relinquishing power was exhibited by Honorable John Sebana Chizito, and that is why we have got a chance to talk to you right now as members of Parliament. First, as a member of Makindye East, Member of Parliament, he paved the way for another generation of leaders by stepping aside and aiming at becoming a mayor of Kampala. And when he became a mayor of Kampala, he served his 2 terms and left power for another leader to come in and serve the people of Kampala. And as a member of Democratic Party, he was given to be a president. The same spirit of relinquishing power generously, without havoc, he exhibited it by paving way for Honorable Norbert Mao, who is the current president of this party. He has been exhibiting the same, even in the sports personality. He was the president of the Federation of Uganda Football Association for some 3 years. He gave up power and other people took it up. The same thing he told me as his successor in line. By then, it was a whisper that my son, my grandson, don't allow some characters. I wouldn't like to mention.
Koboko.
Right Honorable Speaker, I bring the condolences of the people of Koboko County to the bereaved family and to this nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to pay tribute to the late Honorable John Sebana Chizito on 3 accounts, on 3 legacies. The first legacy, the old man has left us, and many of you have spoken about it, is the spirit of entrepreneurship. He was an entrepreneur par excellence. For real. He built his businesses from scratch and in original form. Statewide insurance, Sure House were all built from scratch, using his own efforts, using his own resources. This is the spirit we want this country to move on. The government, our government, should support this spirit of entrepreneurship. Too often these days, people grab other people's land, other people's wealth to become rich. This must stop. Follow this old man's example. The second legacy Honorable Chizito leaves us is a go-getter. Whatever he wanted to achieve, he has achieved. He was President General of his party. He was a minister in government. He was the mayor of this city. The only thing he did not get is the presidency of this country. But his time just ran out. I'm sure given time, maybe he would have achieved it. But he was a go-getter.
Budadiri, West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to also pay tribute to late Savannah Kizito and condolences to the family on behalf of FDC and my family. Mr. Speaker, I may happen to have met Savannah Kizito when I was working in the Ministry of Finance, and I also worked with his son, whom you mentioned, called Joseph Kizito in World Bank. We are good friends, and when I met him, he thought I was not an accountant then, and I told him I was an accountant. How did I meet him? The government then had slapped a bill, an investigation on statewide insurance. They had wanted to close it. But some of us were sober-minded people. We said before we close statewide insurance, we must find out what happened. And I went there with a group, and I met the gentleman called Chwanuka, who was his partner, and also eventually met Kizito on that same day. I discovered many things. That the government then, which had come from the bush, had come to kill locals, and seriously locals. And one of them was statewide insurance, which they had wanted to clear. And using our nationalism, and knowing these are real estate people, Ugandans, the issue of statewide insurance was solved. Otherwise, it should have gone under like PICO insurance company. Mr. Speaker, that time you could not stand as a CA candidate without my signature. I was the one who would write to Okabai with my signature for you to stand. I would clear you. I recall, again, Honorable Savannah Kizito and Dr. Kawanga Semogere. The government then had slapped heavy bills of taxes on them because they never wanted them to stand. Even Cecilia Ogwal, Martin, now who is an MP here, was among the group. I said, it cannot happen. Let us, they had just estimated the taxes, wanting these people not to stand. And I can tell you because they were professing DP, Cecilia was professing UPC. When you hear people saying we brought peace,
Bukoto South.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. With great pain, I rise up to give my tributes to my elder, my village mate, and my friend. I first met the late Savannah Kizito in 1979 on the same village where we are. That was during the Liberation War, which hosted Idi Amin. So as village men, we were there discussing, and he picked interest in me as a young man, being on that very village. There we carried on. I can only cite 3 incidents where the late Savannah Kizito played his role. We had a meeting when they had a movement system, and the late Sekweyama and Savannah Kizito and myself, we had a discussion as how best DP can work with the movement government. That was 1998. Unfortunately, we didn't go far when the late Sekweyama died in a crash of a car accident. I think it wasn't enough. Honorable Savannah Kizito, when he took over as the mayor of Kampala City, had done a tarmac road from the road going to Tank Hill, branching off to Diplomat Hotel. He came to me and praised me, and he exempted me from paying council tax for 5 years because I developed the area. I cannot forget when the bill, condominium law, was passed in Parliament. Honorable Savannah Kizito called me, "Hey, young man, come, there's a bill." I say, "Which one?" "On my show house, I'm giving you 1,000 meters."
Butambala County.
Right Honorable Speaker, I stand to pay tribute to the patron of Uganda Young Democrats. That's the very reason why we had to lay a wreath
When we started Uganda Young Democrats, age was just a number. We wanted to recruit people with a young heart who thought that Uganda, despite its ugly history, can be made a better place for people to have talents, to enjoy and to live in comfort. The late John Sebana Kizito would find time for young people. I remember every afternoon from around about 2, he would find his way to Uganda House to do nothing else but to have a conversation with young people. And he did that religiously. Even when he became a mayor, every evening, young people would find their way to City Hall to have a conversation with the road mayor. And the road mayor, the mayor by that time, would find an opportunity to share with young people. Being a patron of UID came with obvious difficulties. These were people who were unemployed, without work, every single day. If you lacked transport, he would find some few thousands to take you back home. No one got elected in any capacity in the last couple of years in DP without a direct funding from John Sebana Kizito. I can actually confess he funded my entire posters when I stood for being a member of parliament. The entire posters, he was by that time a little bit not in good health. He said, "Oh, Chivumbi, I'll give you all the posters you need. But you make sure you win. And I will not find my way to Butambala, but I'm sure you will win." That is the John Sebana Kizito we are burying. We are paying tribute to. John Sebana Kizito also loved his kingdom. In this country, people think to be Ugandan, you must deny who you are. You must deny your culture. You must not belong to a tribe. He was as good a Muganda and as good as a Ugandan as they can be. That is the Sebana Kizito we are paying tribute to. Sebana Kizito we are paying tribute to. We must all remember, loved this country. He loved democracy.
Busiro. You're always right, Mr. Speaker, and I thank you. At the end, in case I lose time, I will ask you passionately for an extra 2 minutes as the chairman of the organizing committee, and in appreciation, I undertake to give you an extra 10 minutes. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said about the late Honorable John Sebana Kizito. It is all true, and I know a lot more about him, but I will not say it. I simply associate myself with my colleagues that have made very kind remarks about my former President General. Secondly, in my capacity as the chairman of the organizing committee, I want to thank colleagues that have supported us during our tribulation. I want to thank, on behalf of the family, the government, in particular the office and the person of the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Uganda. I want to thank the Chief Whip, members of Parliament and ministers that have visited us, contributed in every way possible to make this occasion, the last moments of the old man, a success. I thank you very much. I want to say this for the third time on this floor. I'm always happy, but equally or proportionally saddened that we keep uniting ourselves in death. Let's unite ourselves even as we live and do our businesses. If everything else has failed in uniting us, let the core values of our forefathers, the core values enshrined in our Constitution, the aspirations of the common man in Uganda, unite us. Let the Constitution that he contributed to bring us together, at least by keeping within the four corners of that Constitution. Let's go out and break the chains of our individual aspirations, our political affiliations, and get back to the true Uganda we want. Let's do good things while we live. to avoid overburdening our children in future. And I wanted to address my brother, if he was here, the Minister for Justice, who I see in my shadow.
Chairman, organizing committee, you could use an extra minute to brief the House what the program is going to be.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And in return, I'll give you also 1 minute at the end of the occasion. So let's stand together. Let's work together. We're facing the pressure from countrymen on the intended amendment of the Constitution. Let the death of John Sebana Kizito bring us together for a common purpose of preserving not just the Constitution, but the spirit of constitutionalism. As Chairman Organizing Committee, I want to take this humble opportunity to invite you to a mass that we're going to have this evening at 6 o'clock at St. Apollo Chivebulaya, Kansanga, tonight. We shall also have a vigil at the late residence tonight. And I invite you again earnestly to the service in the morning at Namirembe St. Paul's Cathedral at 8 o'clock, from where we shall depart to Bulemezi for burial. I want to thank the Honorable the Area Member of Parliament for Katikam South, who has given us the directions. We will keep in touch, and we are always available for consultation on the route and time and all the protocol of the function. I want to thank you very much, and to thank the organizing committee as well as the family for remaining strong. I lost my voice because some people suspect I am closely associated with the deceased. I do not deny that. I affirm, but I'm only grieving. I thank you very much.
PG District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. On behalf of the people of Mpigi and on my own behalf, I want to extend my sincere condolence and sympathy to the bereaved family, the government of Uganda, Buganda Kingdom, the DP fraternity, the church, and everybody in this country. The Honorable John Sebana Kizito is somebody I would always admire in politics. When I wanted to join politics, I came to his office in Kampala. He didn't know me, but when I entered the office, we registered, and the list was long. So he asked his secretary that let the person from PG enter first. I entered his office, I introduced myself, and I told him about my ambition to go into politics. He gave me some advice, some tips, which I followed, and he told me that if I follow these tips, you will win. And I followed the tips, and it's why I'm in Parliament. I want to thank him for the services he delivered to the country. I want to thank God for his life. May his soul rest in peace.
Honorable Member, this is how we'll proceed from here. I'll have the Honorable Kefa. I'll have Nakaseke South. I'll have Otuke, Honorable Gwanahasa, Rubaga North, Member for Mubende, Masaka Municipality, Rute, Makindye West, East, and then we'll proceed like that. Is that Mubende?
No, Mitiana.
Mitiana, sorry, Mitiana. Kasanda. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the people of Chiboga, I'd like to make my condolences to the family, friends, the DP fraternity, the Kabaka's Kingdom, and all Ugandans for a beloved dear one that has passed away. In Kiboga, we knew him first as our son-in-law, but also as one of our landlords in Kiboga, in the area called Kalungu in Dwaniro sub-county. In just the short time I have, I just want to make one very important comment, that whenever I met him, I was always humbled, always surprised by the way he behaved, the way he conducted himself. We all knew that he was a very, very rich man, no doubt about that. The Prime Minister has highlighted some of his achievement in leadership, but he was also a member of the Buganda Luchiko, chair of Bika Football Association, board member CBS, and member of the Buganda Business Council. However, whenever you met him, you would be mistaken to believe that you are just speaking to an ordinary person. It did not carry this way, his achievement, his money around him, and you couldn't get that feel that actually is that person that you're speaking to. The other thing, probably, which I find very important at this moment in time, as we think about carrying forward his legacy, I think one thing we should be asking ourselves, where he will not be. When we are speaking, whatever we are doing, when probably the police...
Member for Nakaseke has gone. Okay, Otuke.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker and all members. I stand on behalf of Otuke people, on my own behalf, and on behalf of statewide insurance, to pay tribute to the late Sebana Kizito. So many people have spoken on the areas of their knowledge. I equally want to say Honorable Sebana Kizito had been a person for all. I am among those whom I count as a person who nurtured me politically, financially, and spiritually. I am putting on this yellow because this is the color for statewide insurance. I had been a staff there from 2012 up to last year in June. And I want to tell everybody that much as Honorable Sebana Kizito is dead, his legacy and the people he nurtured are not dead. We shall promise to continue with this legacy. Thank you. The Right Honorable Speaker and members, I want to affirm that there is a political word which says one Uganda, one people. That one is theoretical, but the action was with Sebana Kizito. I want to encourage the family members that when you see so many people talk good of a person, even biblically the Bible accepts. That means he's going to stay with God. Whoever is with God, we don't have to mourn about such a person, but to celebrate. With this few words, I want to sincerely join members of the family of Swiko, members of the family of Sebana, to celebrate the life of Sebana.
Honorable Gonahachi.
Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to bring condolences of the people of Kabwiri constituency in Kibuku district. We have very little time, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Every time we come here to eulogize the departed, we talk a lot of good things about them. But as I sat down there, I thought about what those people in those coffins would tell us on a day like this. Before I get there, I want to say I knew Sebana a little bit. He was my father's friend. He came to my home.
when I was doing peri-urban agriculture in Busega. He came with the whole council from Kampala City Council then. He was a really humble man. Finally, and this is all I'm saying, from Philippians chapter 4, we said he was a Christian. Let's read those words. He says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, and all the things we have been saying here, I think are honest. Whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, like all the reports you have made, if there be any virtue, and there be any praise, think of those things. Those things which you both have learned and received and heard and seen in me, do. Please, I think that's what he's telling us. Whatever, if we have learned it, if we have heard it, and if you have seen it in him, let's do it. And the God of peace shall be with you. Thank you very much, and may the soul of the deceased rest in peace.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I stand to support the motion. It has been said by some scholars that some people die at 25 and buried at 75. Others die at 75 and buried after 25 years. I want to say from the onset that we can only bury the late Savannah after 100 years. I first saw the late in 1982, when as the area member of parliament, he had visited my school, St. Denis Gava Secondary School in Machinji. At that age, I had never followed and appreciated politics as I did after the brief interaction with him. He preached truth and justice, and not only in politics, but only in business. In him I saw a true patriot, a true statesman, and a hope. It has been said, Right Honorable Speaker, that death is not the worst tragedy of life, but living without purpose is the worst. The late has lived with purpose. He was a truthful politician in politics and a trustworthy businessman in business. One thing I want to end with, we are here because of his good legacy he's leaving behind. The legacy is partly to serve and retire. He retired from parliament, he retired from mayorship, he retired from ministership, he retired from president generalship. He can only be happier than what we are doing today if we followed that legacy. Thank you very much.
Yet Honorable Member Michiana, is there?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I stand here to support the motion on this day of July. A great grandfather of my generation lays life race before Parliament. The person of Honorable Savannah Kizito became vividly clear to me after realizing the significance of Nachivobo Channel to our city, which emboldened me to praise the originators of the idea. Before us, honorable members, lies a great countryman that contributed much to our country, amongst which is the construction of Nachivobo Channel. Just the other day, we are sending off Honorable Boniface Byanyima and several other reputable elders prayer. I call them the grandfathers of our generation. Where are you going, our elders? I'm asking. What is that happened to our generation? Oh God. Why are we only losing good advisors while remaining with those that wish to die in leadership? oh God, kindly intervene. Honorable Sebana Kizito has been an archetype of leaders that this country desires to have. I emulate him. Fare thee well, our grandfather. We shall miss you. As the generation, may your soul rest in eternal peace.
Masaka Municipality.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I join colleagues in sending condolences to the family of the late Sebana and thanking everyone who has ably eulogized this fine gentleman. Right Honorable Speaker, that this Sebana worked for a free and fair society is information in the public domain. When he was given a chance to practice what he preached, we saw his efforts then as a minister for urban planning in the development of Namuongo to provide accommodation for the urban poor. We all know and recollect that this project was abandoned when the bourgeoisie arrivalists took over and overran the urban poor. As they say, the rest is history. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to speak about the late as a person I've worked with as a leader, but also as a partner in education. Over the last 3 years, we've been working together to promote vocational education in this country. And I can confirm that he has sponsored more than 400 younger people for vocational education without color, creed, tribe, or religion. And I have a catalog of all these younger people. So his legacy is the legacy of practice, not word alone. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the late for not fearing to mentor younger people and for not fearing to be replaced. I believe it's the reason why across the aisle, all of us appreciate that he was sincere when he dared to mentor younger people. This is one of the key lessons we must speak as leaders of today, to work for posterity, not to work for daily lunch. He worked beyond lunch, and I'm very sure those he mentored will live beyond lunch seeking. Right Honorable Speaker, in gratitude to his contribution to my party, I would like to invite colleagues in the DP to pick lessons from his calm demeanor in ensuring that we work for the collective, not for the personal. This will liberate this country by promoting these institutions of democracy, our parties, and also encourage colleagues across the aisle to work for promoting institutions of democracy called parties, not to work for growing cults. These cults replace
Rute.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker and honorable members, rising up to support the motion and to appreciate the life of the late John Sebana Kizito. Was first introduced to this great man when Paul Semogere was taking uphill to become the president of this country. And I was introduced to him and told that I'm a commander of all the votes in Lango sub-region. And during that time, I did it very well. When he took all the votes, almost the majority of the votes, 90% in Lango sub-region, and in my constituency, he got 100%, while the competitor got 0 at my polling station. When I told him the results, he was very happy. He told me, let us continue. At least this time, UPC has done very well to DP candidates. We said we knew he was DP candidate, but we have paid you very well this time. And unfortunately, when I came back to him again, he told me, sorry, our people in Uganda did not vote their son. I said, what about you? Did you vote him? He said, I voted, but something has gone wrong. A new knife has come into this country, has cut the country into two pieces. And I don't know if we will ever unite to fight it. And I think you has left this country very disappointed, because the unity in the DP itself is not there. The country is not united to fight the common enemies, which are corruption, poverty, and even other evils. I therefore stand here to say, may his good life be blessed by God. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Makindye East.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I raised to pay tribute to one of our elders who has served this country with sincerity. When I listened attentively to all members who have talked all kind words to the late, I realized that before us lies a very great son of this land. Right Honorable Speaker, I also realized that what helped the late to achieve all what he has managed to achieve, it was one thing: discipline. Because despite all the positions, the powerful positions he served in, despite all the resources he had, he remained loyal to his political party. He had discipline to his political party. I think if we are to realize the mission as opposition, we need to have something to learn from that we need to be disciplined if we are to realize that. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to end that I realize that the shoes I'm trying to step in as earlier Member of Parliament, I need to tighten my belt if I'm to succeed and to act exemplarily like my leader who's lying before us. May his soul rest in peace.
Right Honorable.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The great man lying before us, I knew him in the early 80s when he was organizing the leadership forums for young Democrats in the Democratic Party. I have two things that he taught me that I think have helped me to be what I am, and I think they also helped him to be what he is. Number one, he always told us not to start the day if you are not ready. And he told us that to be ready for the day, you need to review the day in the evening and then plan for the day that is coming. And he told us that if you go to bed with a clear vision of the day the next day, you will definitely not oversleep, because it will stone your mind, and as soon as you wake up, you will know what to do. He also told us that never ever wake up if you don't have a plan for the day, because you are going to destabilize others who have their plans for the days. And then he told us, after you have planned for the day, do the same for the week, do the same for the month, do the same for the year, and life after here will be the same. At one time, we asked him, how does he manage to do all those things that he does? Because I remember that time he had stalls in the market, he was an insurance guru, he also was lending money, and so many other things. And then he said, young men, if you want anything done, give it to a busy person. A person who is not busy is lazy. You will never achieve. When I went to him for blessings as I was starting my campaigns to come here, he repeated the same things and others that I may not be able to say here. But then lastly he told me, you are going into that parliament, be ready to defend the Constitution. And he particularly told me they are going to tamper with the age limit. Stand firm. And I'd like to affirm here in front of everybody that I'm still firm.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Sebana Kizito was a father and a mentor. I remember when I won elections, he called me and told me these words. You have to stand for and defend what you believe in. That is truth and justice. Therefore, I urge the young Democrats, let's emulate Honorable Sebana Kizito. Let's emulate his hard work and his passion for his party and the nation at large. And as a Christian, I pray that may the Almighty God look at his deeds and grant him eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Cassandra is final. Cassandra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm rising up to pay tribute to this gallant Ugandan, the late John Sebana Kizito. Right Honourable Speaker, a lot has been said, but there are three things which I want to point out, which are major legacy as far as Mzee Sebana Kizito was concerned. Mzee Sebana Kizito lived a balanced life between politics and business. There are very few Ugandans who can be successful in politics and also successful in business. But John Sebana Kizito, we can say, he scored 100% in both. Right Honourable Speaker, sir, the man lying before us here was loyal to his Kabaka and the kingdom. In 1993, when the NRM government had just restored the kingdoms, Honourable John Sebana Kizito was among the few Ugandans who came up even to invest money in kingdom programs, to the extent that the current radio for the kingdom, CBS, the late Honourable Sebana Kizito has been a director. Lastly, Right Honourable Speaker, sir, the best lesson we can copy from Honourable Sebana Kizito, especially the current DP leaders, that Honourable Sebana Kizito worked for a united party.
Honorable members, the request was that we close at 5 and the processes that will lead us to closing at 5. I thank you for the debate and for all that you have been able to say. I now put the question to the motion. I put the question to the motion that Parliament collectively conveys its deep condolences to the bereaved family, relatives, friends, and the people of Uganda upon the demise of Honorable John Sebana Kizito, that it takes cognizance of the distinguished service rendered and the contribution made by Honorable John Sebana Kizito to Uganda. that this Parliament collectively prays to the Almighty God to sustain the bereaved and grant our departed colleague and friend, Honorable Sabana Kizito, eternal peace. That is the motion that I now put the question for its determination. I put the question to that motion. Will those in favor say aye to the contrary? No. Aye. The ayes have it.
Item number 6.
Honorable members, each time we have this kind of tribute motions, some emotions are evoked in us. Some memories become alive in us. And we remember our history, and we certainly come to the conclusion that the future is brighter than the past. Where we have been was not that bright. And we must use that past, which we already know, as a resource that we invest for a better future for this country. It was only this morning that I discovered that the Honorable Sabana Kizito is actually not a Catholic. I didn't know. I didn't know. Just imagine the history of this country that has been branded. Everybody that was DP was supposed to be Catholic. Everybody that was UPC was supposed to be Anglican. Some people have defied all these definitions and confirmed the statement that was made by somebody that we label only to divide. Let's stop labeling. Let's start living as Ugandans and build our country. Thank you.
Item number 6, the anthems in reverse order. Please rise. Stay put at the casket, leave the chamber.
What does stay put mean?
resume your seats. Item number 7, the order paper, adjournment.
Honorable members, I want to thank you again. We have come to that moment where we need to adjourn the proceedings of this special sitting, but to remind us that the ordinary sitting of Parliament will be on Tuesday, starting at 2 o'clock. So this special sitting now stands adjourned. Thank you.
Segundo.